Imagine you could ask God any question. What would it be? Who created you? What is your real form? Why do different religions describe you differently? Are you inside me or somewhere beyond the universe? Today we will explore these questions from the perspective of Advait Vedanta. Not to tell you what to believe, but invite you to investigate. Welcome back to Untying the Knot with Trupti. I am Trupti, and today we are doing Q&A deep dive into 4 questions about God. And I want to warn you, some of these answers may feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that is where real inquiry begins. First question, is there a God or Atma within me? Let's start with what may be the most common spiritual assumption in the world. God is within me. I have an Atma inside me. There is a divine presence dwelling in my heart. But here is the shift. Vedanta does not say Atma is something sitting inside you. This is the most widespread and fundamental misunderstandings of the teaching. Think about what the word within actually implies. When you say Atma is within me, you are imagining yourself as a container and Atma as something contained inside it. But a container must be larger than what it contains. So you have unconsciously made the body-mind the container and Atma something smaller that exists within it. Almost like Atma is your personal possession, your private divine self. That is the ego at work. When you look within, what do you actually encounter? Not truth, not God sitting there waiting to be discovered. You encounter your falseness, your ignorance. You find thoughts, emotions, memory, sensations, the body, the mind, the sense of being a person. And Vedanta asks you to examine each one. Is this timeless? Is this unchanging? Is this always present? Can this be the ultimate self? And each time the answer is no. Not this, not this. Neti, neti. Eventually everything that can be observed, experienced, or objectified has been set aside. So did you find God somewhere inside? No. You found that the within itself was an illusion. There is no container. There is not a little Atman sitting inside a bigger me. There is only awareness in which the seeker, the search, and everything that is searched for appear. And this is why the inquiry begins with the simplest word of all, I. Who is this I? The thought I is the doorway to the inquiry. It points us toward the one reality that cannot itself become an object of experience. Why do different religions describe God differently? Now let's go a step deeper. If God is one formless reality, why does every tradition describe God differently? The answer is simpler than you think. Words are instruments. They are not the reality they point to. Human language operates within time, space, and sensory experience. Our mind operates through concepts, forms, relationships, and experiences that belong to the world we know. But if the ultimate reality transcends all forms and limitations, how can language capture it completely? It can't. So we use metaphors, stories, images, names, symbols. Each tradition expresses the infinite through the language and culture available to it. And this is where Vedanta offers a radically inclusive perspective. Different descriptions of God do not necessarily have to be competing descriptions. They can be different ways of relating to the same infinite reality. The word God or consciousness or Atman are not reality itself. They are pointers. The mystics of every tradition are pointing at the same moon, and their fingers look different because their hands are different. Their cultures are different, their languages are different, but the moon they point towards is the same. So when you hear a description of God that doesn't match your own, Vedanta invites you not to argue with it, but instead ask, what is this finger pointing to? Because the question is not whether every finger looks the same. The question is whether we are looking at what the finger is pointing toward. Is believing in God enough? This question cuts to the heart of spiritual life. And the Vedantic answer is direct. No, belief is not enough. Let me tell you why. You can believe that meditation will make your mind peaceful. You can read about it. hear other people describe it, and become completely convinced. But until you sit quietly and observe your own mind, you haven't discovered that peace for yourself. Belief gives you an idea, knowledge transforms your understanding. If you say, I believe in God or I believe in Atman, but in your daily life, you remain confused, fearful, anxious, or deeply dependent on external conditions, what has that belief actually changed? But Vedanta asks us to look deeper. Belief is an assumption, and inquiry is an invitation. Belief is another name for the ego, and truth is another name for the freedom from the ego. And they cannot go together. Why? Because belief requires no investigation. It asks nothing of you. You can believe anything. And the ego loves this because it never has to be wrong. Belief is a closed door. Inquiry is an open one. The belief in God can also arise from the ego's primary conviction that I am real. If I assume myself to be a separate, independently existing self, then the world I perceive also appears independently real. And now I naturally look for a creator behind it and call that creator God. But Vedanta asks us to investigate the assumption itself. Who is this I? That is where the deeper inquiry begins. True religiosity is not merely believing. It is the deep, fearless curiosity to investigate and discover truth for yourself. Not because someone told you the answer, because you saw it directly. God as a belief, a concept, or something we simply inherit from tradition may give us comfort. But God as truth demands inquiry. And the purpose of inquiry is not to replace one belief with another. It is to remove what is false until only truth remains. Did we create God or did God create us? And now the question that has troubled theologians for centuries. Let's approach it with Vedantic clarity and total honesty. If God created us, and God is omnipotent, omniscient, eternal, merciful, and all good, then we might expect His creation to reflect those qualities. We might expect ourselves to be extraordinary beings, full of joy and peace and completeness. But are we? Look at our experience. We feel uncertain. We feel afraid. We search for security. We want protection from a world we cannot completely control. And so the human mind naturally imagines a power beyond itself, a cosmic parent who is watching over us, protecting us, rewarding us, and controlling what happens. But Vedanta asks us to examine this carefully. Did we discover God or did we create an idea of God to satisfy our need for security? The possibility is harder to hear, but worth investigating. Our concept of God may be shaped by fear, by our longing for security, and by the ego's need to feel protected and confirmed. And then comes the follow-up question. If God created us, who created God? This question reveals something about how the mind works. The mind understands reality through the cause and effect. So it naturally looks for a creator for everything. But Brahman, which is the term for ultimate reality in Vedanta, is not another effect within the chain of causation. Brahman is existence itself, the reality in which cause and effect themselves appear. And this gives us an important distinction. At the relative level, we can speak of God or Ishwar. We can worship and pray. But from the standpoint of ultimate reality, neither the individual creator nor the created universe is separate from Brahman. Advaita Vedanta views both the creator and the creation as Maya. Brahman alone is absolute. So did we create God? At the relative level, we certainly create concepts, images, names, and stories about God. And these are shaped by our minds, cultures, fears, hopes, and experiences. But what those concepts point towards was never created. The reality the word God attempts to describe is not something that came into existence. It is the uncreated awareness in which the question who created God arises and dissolves. The practical shift is this. Instead of asking whether God is within you, recognize that the you who asks is itself an appearance in God. Instead of arguing about which description of God is right, use every description as a pointer and follow where it leads. Instead of believing in God, inquire until belief becomes unnecessary. If you have more questions about God or Vedanta, leave them in the comments or send them by email. In our next video, we will explore the most intimate doorway of all, love. What does Vedanta say about love? Is love possible without separation? That video is for the beginner playlist and you will find it deeply moving. If you would like to explore how Vedanta applies to modern life, check out the Vedanta playlist on this channel. And if you would like to go deeper through live discussions and guided inquiry, join our Vedanta book club. You will find link in the description. Until next time, keep inquiring.
My name is Darshita and I'm a corporate girly turned artist and a writer. And I'm also exploring holistic health right now. Joining the Vedanta Book Club has been life-changing for me. It has added a lot of meaning to my life because every week when I leave the discussions, it always leaves me with something valuable to reflect upon. With Vedanta, it is not about memorizing philosophy. It is about understanding yourself, your mind, understanding the stress, the challenges, the fear, the dissatisfaction. I especially love that how everyone is encouraged to ask questions and how practical the discussions are, and especially how Trupti is making all the complex topics and discussions make simple and relevant to our everyday life. So I would highly recommend for someone who wants genuine inner growth to actually join the book club.